Welcome to Detention episode 103. Athalor, aka Leg Day, is in detention. He had to go to sleep. Do either of you feel like doing the recap? You want me to do it today? You want a freebie?
I will do it.
Okay,
Yeah.
if you do it, you can have the inspo, as usual.
Okay. Oh shit. Okay, I'll try to recall and look at my janky notes. What happened? Okay, episode 103 of Ioth Academy. We were in the old Shadow Realm when Shadow Mommy popped up and then basically was like, hey, this is my realm, this is my domain. Asked for our names, which we kinda told, like some last names, some shortenings of names, kind of scared if it was a fey creature, but told us that her name was it Lurkel? Was it? Yeah.
Yeah, close enough.
Yeah, something like that. And she was not actually real. She was a shadow creature and wanted to be real, so wanted some blood. And Garnet kind of convinced her to be okay with one of her summons bloods, which made a deal for some like white devil infernal creature that had a lot of blood for her to eventually consume. But when we were trying to kind of cross Athalor's rainbow bridge to get to her, we were attacked by some invisible fox man who was in the abyss below us, tried to cast some suggestion spells, get Garnet to throw her book down into that abyss, and Athalor for the quill, which he did actually drop the quill, and Garnet, quick thinking, quick reflexes, saved it. Summoned another very, very large creature to see this actual fox man, kind of pointing down into the abyss where he was. But we crossed, and then Garnet summoned the devil for Shadow Mommy to feast on, and then said, okay, deal's done, deal's good, went invisible herself, and then we passed through to the Shadow Gyre, where we located the sage's lantern via a scroll of locate object, followed a kind of very strange path into the Shadow Gyre, and eventually felt the Herald's presence, in which we summoned Wurrenwa to deal with him. Athalor, I think it's why Athalor's uncle contacted him briefly. It's basically like, hey, what the fuck? And Athalor was like, I'm my own man. Heck you, kind of stuff. And Athalor's uncle was like, I failed you. I was very disappointed, but yeah. Then as we were getting the sage, we reduced her, gated on out of there. But as we were leaving, the herald said some spooky words, almost like a curse. It seemed like some like what you've taken from me, you'll give again on flesh and blood and something, and some like 3 cups, 3 salt harvests reap, and 3 broken swords. And yeah, he was like, basically, we'll fucking see each other again, monk ass. But we got
Particular
back.
set of skills.
Yeah, I
was looking at us.
I do know who you are. I do know where you live.
Harold was kind of pissed. We got back to Ioth Academy, caught the sage and Sventisco up on everything, and we kind of go back to being students for a little bit, strangely enough. First time in a while. Athalor checked with artificers. Garnet delivered some sweets to Cyrus. Mantra had a little dinner with Sven. And then Mantra and Athalor found Alozrin being kind of sussy in the Tarsamore library, working on his high magic and studying magic arts for his little important destiny. He seemed very mellowed out, very kind of weird, but then Garnet had a little chat, I think with Anaros. And we all work on the project for a little gift to Brontha that Athalor proposed way back. And I believe completed it, or at least made some really good progress on it. And then to end the session, was it Mia Hethel was his name? Told Athalor wanted to have a quick word in his office, and tells Athalor that his father is missing. And that's where we ended episode 103 of Ioth Academy.
Thank you, Crowan. Inspo for you.
Oh.
So what should our order of operations be? Should it be stars and wishes, or should it be episode titles first, since we added that as a segment?
I'm so bad at titles of anything, so I don't know.
Stars and wishes.
Okay, we'll do stars and wishes. Crowan, let's start with you.
Okay. Stars and wishes. Oh god.
It's kind of a chill episode. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, it was chill. I think resolving the potential conflict with Shadow Mommy in not actual battle, but making a deal, and that kind of working out and us getting past it. You know, we didn't just solve problems with violence, and that's pretty cool. And I'm sure it won't have any implications of the future at all. It'll be perfectly okay with this shadow creature being a real thing and being able to escape the Shadow Realm. And then Wish. Find out what the fuck the Herald was talking about. That spooky fucking curse type thing. Like, what is that about? It means something. I wish to figure out what the fuck it means. Yep. That's me.
All right, Levin. Hey, first off, thank you for joining us on the road. I know it's always
Oh,
fun having
yeah.
a rando setup.
No, I'm glad to not be doing work and playing games with friends.
Yay.
Yeah, stars. I was glad. I will give myself a star sticker because I was stoked that the summon void thing had different uses than just
Yeah.
carpet bombing people. And maybe I can try to like think of more different like utility ways of using them but that requires maybe more research. But yeah, and thanks for helping me find which one had true sign, which one could be good blood or whatever. That was cool.
This one has the best blood, yes.
Wishes. I'm curious to know what happens to Shadow Mommy and like how she sees the party, because I feel like the party did a good job of trying to warm up to her, and especially Garnet trying to like relate over the shadow magic stuff. So I don't know how she's gonna treat the party in the future, but that's what I wish, is to know more about that.
That can be arranged.
Oh. Actually, on that note, I have a question. Or is it like, is it common knowledge or any knowledge at all, if it doesn't spoil anything? Like, have there ever been other like shadow people like in the Shadow Realm or whatever that have gotten out and like made an impact on Anacra?
I don't think, if there are like specific examples, they'd be super, super obscure. I think Elnau was, as a higher level shadow sorceress, Elnau would sort of be familiar with the fact that this is how it works, but most shadow creatures aren't that sentient because they're sort of shadows cast by the real world, or they're like leftovers, like dead people who become shadows are sort of echoes, impressions, etc. Most of them don't have enough consciousness, enough sentience, enough self to reach that point. Your common shadow craves being real again, which is why it drains strength from humans, is draining that vital energy. But all that happens when it does that is that if it does that enough, they turn into more shadows. So it's trying to make itself real, and instead it just deprives others of their reality. So this is not the first time that this has happened, but it's rare for a shadow entity to have that much sentience and just to go through with that. So extremely uncommon phenomena. And I can't think of a historical example.
How does a shadow person have that much sentience? Is it like, oh, they got lucky RNG, or like something else there?
Well, if the Shadow Realm is a shadow of the real world, then they must be the shadow of either a particularly important person, a particularly important place. If like the person that they were the shadow of died unfulfilled with a ton of like potential that was lost or whatever, maybe they'll rise as a ghost and haunt you, but maybe they'll just die, but their shadow will persist with that sort of drive, ambition, so on and so forth.
Gotcha.
So he could be the shadow. Yerkale could be the shadow of someone very important, or sort of a psychic impression of a place accumulated, like maybe the shadow of somebody who wasn't that important, but their shadow stuck around, and Onderud is this place of such drive and ambition that it sort of resonated in that person. There's a few different possible origins.
Okay, cool.
And I'm sure Go ahead.
You said the real world reflects the shadow world like 1-to-1, or
Close. There's a shadow on Darude. There's a shadow Ioth Academy. There's like for every mountain, but it gets very blurry and very weird and very exaggerated. So usually the way that it works is if you are in Ioth Academy and you transfer to the shadow world. Excuse me, I just got back from the month of Doom yesterday. I'm still a little zonked.
Oh, good.
Wherever you cross over, it starts out being exaggerated, Tim Burton-esque, but recognizable. But then as you start moving away, it gets less and less recognizable. Like, let's take Brontha and Ioth Academy as examples, right? You enter the Shadow Realm in Brontha, you're in the Shadow version of Brontha. You enter the Shadow Realm in Ioth Academy, you're in the Shadow Realm of Ioth Academy. Between the two, there are other things, but there's also a lot of open desert. So if you enter the Shadow Realm in Ioth Academy and then you travel to Brontha, the further you get from your entry point, the more weird and the less the area you're in is going to accurately reflect the real world. So if you enter in Ioth Academy and then travel halfway there, you're going to be in some bizarre shadow desert. If you enter in Brontha and you make the same distance when you get to the middle, it will not be the same. Even though it's equidistant between the two, because it's further from your origin point, reality and the shadows and stuff that get cast, they get distorted. It's not going to look the same going that way. And if you enter the Shadow Realm in between those two places, it's not going to look the same as either of those crossings, because entering there is going to make that place much more reflective or close to the real version of that place.
so how does how do the shadow people in the shadow plane know what's happening in the real world?
They shouldn't, except that events in that side can sometimes, like if a city gets destroyed in the real world, the shadow of that city becomes even more of a ruin. It's going to change the shadow plane because it just continues to be a shadow cast by the real world. But specific individual events and stuff should be very difficult for an entity to be aware of.
So like how Shadow Mommy knew that El now blew up a mountain.
Mhm.
She's not supposed to know that, or that's
It-
very weird
it's
that she knows that?
It's unusual for her to know that, but keep in mind that El now, in addition to void magic, also uses shadow magic, which means that her powers affect both worlds. Shadow magic draws on because you know how I've said that shadow is sort of like the contrast, right? So one example is dawn, void, shadow is in the middle. When you're casting shadow magic, you're relying on the power of the paradox between the two, and that often is done by drawing from the plane of shadows. So when you cast shadow magic in the material world, it changes the shadow plane where you are. It causes changes and effects. So it is more reasonable for a sentient shadow entity to know about the deeds of Master El now than it would be for her to know about, say, Untermaler.
Oh, okay. Makes sense.
Anything else?
I just looked at Twitter briefly, and like they liked a post from 2 years ago by Veep that like you tweeted Gnomes the whole like that riddle thingy that the Herald said. So this is like a long-term thing and has been said before, huh? I'm just seeing
Damn.
it. I'll link it in our I'll link it in our backstage thing. Hold on.
What the heck? Damn, you got
Damn.
exposed.
The tinfoil. The tinfoil is strong right now. Holy crap.
Monka,
That's a good catch. Like Beep's art says, lol, don't worry about it.
Wait, I'm worrying about it.
I've got to set up detention so I can bring things up on screen. I still don't have that set up. I'll do that for like next episode. Oh man.
I'll link it in chat too. This one. Oh god, never mind. Chatbot said fuck me.
Oh, you're not permitted? I'll do it. I should VIP you.
Where does the shadow abyss go?
What shadow abyss?
Like if we were to fall off the bridge into the abyss
Deep
or drop
shadows.
one of our items.
You might just vanish into darkness, never to return. You might appear somewhere else entirely. You might be swarmed by shadows that drain you of your life.
Oh, okay.
Might end up in the underworld. If you're lucky.
Hate that.
Oh man, that's right. I was gonna post that. God
So
damn.
is it not weird that Fae are in the shadow plane? Because I always thought Fae were like in their Fae world or Fae plane or something.
It is unusual. It is definitely unusual. Shadow Fae are a documented phenomena, but they don't fit nicely into the whole Seelie, unseelie court business. I guess the most likely thing would be a Shadow Fae is the shadow of a powerful Fae being or powerful Fae entities. You can almost think, if you're going with the traditional D&D cosmology, which Anacra is that, but just, cooked in different directions. In normal 5th edition D&D, you have the material world, and then you have the Feywild, and you have the Shadowfell. And the Feywild is like a bright, exaggerated, extra magical version of the mortal world. And the Shadowfell is like this dark, grim version of the mortal world. In Anacra, the other world, our Feywild, is a very important plane of existence. It's like this, it's not just, it doesn't have the same billing as our Shadowfell, because it's one of the four kingdoms. The plane of Shadow, on the other hand, is like a fake universe. It's a byproduct. It doesn't exist naturally. It's just the what's blocked by the light of energy flowing through the planes. So it is unusual for a Fae to be there. Fae do originate in the other world. It's a documented phenomenon, but it's not super common.
Also, I guess like an additional wish would be to like figure out what's going on with Garnet and the mom. Because the more I think about it, the more I think Garnet's pissed at her. But the more she's trying to like ignore the situation. But I don't know how she's feeling, because why does Spymaster Seer care and know things? So yeah.
Politics.
Family. Ugh.
Yup. Gross. Any other questions?
Not for now.
Okay, episode titles. What are we thinking?
Oh god.
Oh yeah, didn't we say something about the Herald's ass?
Yes, we did. We can talk about it. It's not happening. Was that between? It was between episodes, right? It was at the break that came up.
Yeah, it was right. Yeah, it was right when the break started.
There's got to be some like play on words with like the Shire and Gyre, like into the Shire, into the Gyre, or.
Oh yeah, look at some Tolkien. Look at like the scourging. Was it the scourging of the Shire?
Oh, and I was like, or something with the Raven Queen, because I was fully convinced that was the Raven Queen for like an entire week, and then it wasn't. Which, not disappointed, just more interested now, but it's like, what?
Very Raven Queen vibes.
It's Crow Queen. That's happening.
Completely different. Yeah.
Not brand name Raven Queen.
Branded Queen.
We have Raven Queen at home.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, Anacra doesn't have the gods and deities of the Forgotten Realms. There are some tie-ins, some crossovers and stuff. It's entirely possible that some of the Infernals might have come from those worlds, since they came from other worlds out there in the cosmos. Maybe Uzul was some loser who got kicked out of Avernus because he couldn't hack it and said, "Fine, I'll make my own kingdom." It's possible, but your Paylor, your Serenray, Bane, Mirkul, Raven Queen, we don't have them here. I'm writing down we have Raven Queen at home just in case.
That's a good one.
Wait, our party crosses the Rainbow Bridge. Cry emoji.
Something
about crossing the Rainbow Bridge.
The Rainbow,
Rainbow Road.
Connection.
200cc Rainbow Road.
Mhm. Or something about I can just make a new one, because remember when I threw that bitch off the bridge? I was like, I'll just make a new one.
Sound of silence. Hello, darkness, my old friend.
Ah, the Crow Queen likes her meat raw because she ate something today.
Yeah.
That is still what she is giving a bit of like a Starion vibes. She's still a bit vampire-y. I thought she was just gonna like, I don't know, take over the vessel or something. I didn't know she was gonna just like vampire Dracula suck it, you know, like.
Oh, she didn't like pierce it, and she didn't drink it from his neck. It's like she punctured the wine bag before she drank it. You know, she was playing slap the bag.
Oh.
Like he was standing up here, and she cut his throat, and then
Very
stand.
She only wanted a few drops, so she got all that.
Well, here's the thing. She would have taken a few drops, but you gave her the option, so she took more.
That's
Does
true.
that make a difference in
Yes.
her little? Oh.
I would imagine so.
So she needed that vital energy, that life essence, to become real. If she had taken it from one of you, that would affect her new reality. It's very different to take it from a rune-carved tiefling or a recently created twilight elf or a void-corrupted Zalarian Azamar. Like, whatever that essence that she took would sort of shape her new reality. And she drank...
She is going to be evil now.
She did drink a lot of devil blood.
Yeah. Well, now we know for next time.
But we cool, right? We cool.
Hey.
Like we're friends, right?
Oh, ring her
we
up.
got a
You have her
reminder.
name. She has your name. She's like, oh, we know each other's names. We can send and spell each other. It'll be fine.
You gotta like check in on her every like week, or she'll forget and just be pure evil.
Yeah, I'll think about it next week.
And you'll be like, hey, just remember,
Don't be
we're
evil.
cool. Mhm. Or at least don't be evil to us.
Exactly. You can be evil to other people, just not to me. All right. I think that just about wraps it up, unless you had anything else you wanted to cover.
Mm.
Nope.
Cool. Well, kick ass at World Cup, Jen, and thanks again for joining us.
Yeah. Good luck.
And-
Have
Thanks for
fun.
the episode.
It's always the highlight of my week. I will see you next week.
Yeah.
Next week. You have a problem next week? Or are we gonna have a problem?
I'm good for next week.
All right, awesome. Well, everyone out there, you know where to find us on socials and stuff to get your updates. So thank you, all of you, for joining us. I'm going to go crash and die now, okay?
Get
Good
some good
night,
sleep.
everyone.